Good morning, everyone. We'll begin with the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action, and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action. The results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. So good morning. Today is day 11 of our Noble Friendship Pod. The theme is returning home. And we've had other potential titles for today. Titles such as Truing the Heart, as recommended by Marty, or Purifying Our Intentions. But we decided on returning home because it felt something that everyone could relate to. And why is returning home related to, in this sequence of the Noble Friendship Pod journey, from me to we to us? We're now going beyond me, beyond we, and beyond us. The beyond me is because we're going beyond this kind of limiting self-identity, this ego. And you could say, the first day we're befriending ourselves. So maybe befriending our ego, wishing ourselves well. But now that we've gone on this journey, we're going another layer deeper to actually see, this self that I've constructed is just that, something I've constructed. And then I want to look a little bit deeper, to become a little bit truer, a little bit pure, to really go home and not take refuge in my kind of constructed narrative. And honestly, doing this is sometimes pretty scary, because usually all we know is, maybe it's not all we know, but oftentimes what we take to be our home, what we're most familiar with, is our identity, is our constructed narrative. They go a little bit deeper than that, can bring up anxiety, fear, defensiveness. And so something that Jing Weisher and myself have found very helpful is, in modern culture, they call it restorative practices in modern education. And in this 3-month retreat that we're doing right now for the men here, and hopefully for the Sangha as it grows here in the West, this is one of the design principles that we want to establish. When I really was kind of struck when I was exposed to this system was that it's a way of looking clearly at what we've done in our lives without slipping into a mindset of blame and judgment, but rather a mindset of healing and, you could say, accountability. So I have a little bit of a story to share that I think maybe illustrates this principle. I remember also sharing this at DRBU during a contemplative exercise immersion, a retreat on communication. And central to this system that's been introduced to many schools across the nation and around the world is what they call the restorative questions. So when somebody does something wrong, let's say one kid hurt another kid, maybe punched him, maybe made fun of him, maybe stole from him, or maybe another student vandalized the school, or maybe acted up in the classroom. So rather than just saying, okay, you did this, you have suspension now, or you're getting expelled now, not just first move. Rather, the first question is, what happened? What happened when maybe you punched a kid, got really angry, da 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 da. You have the whole story. They did this, I did that, da 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 da. Okay, what happened? Second question, what were you feeling and thinking at that time? To me, that's a very interesting question, because you first go for the kind of external, quote unquote, external objective facts, what happened, but then you're going inside with the wise reflection. So what's going on inside, basically? Third question they ask, what have you felt or thought about since? I thought that's another very interesting question, because it now takes that objective, wise reflection and now puts it over a time frame to reflect. Fourth question, who has this affected and how? I thought, this is an interesting question, because it's actually cause and effect. Saying, okay, so maybe when I, say, hit that other kid in the classroom or on the playground, he was upset, and he got really angry, and maybe had a really bad day. And for me, I got very scared. I'm worried that the school will give me punishment, and maybe my parents will find out about it, and I'll be grounded at home. And I'll be, a lot of things arise afterwards. Right, seeing the cause and effect. But I think the final question is essentially the most key question that has to be asked to make this a restorative process. Is asking, so how do you think you can make things right? How do you think you can heal the situation? So all of that previous reflection was leading up to that last question of saying, okay, so now that I've looked at this kind of spectrum of what has happened, how will I respond from compassion and wisdom? As I remember introducing this to the students in the school, I think for those in the pod, you'll find out that that's the exercise for us today, is to reflect on something that we've done where there's some harm, and then we use those questions to reflect on ourselves. So remember doing that with another student at DRBU, and the thing that came to my mind was actually my younger brother, about teasing him when he was a kid. My younger brother, maybe 6.5 years younger than me, and his name is Darren. And I remember as a kid just making fun of him. And so the first question was, what happened? I said, well, my brother was, younger. I teased him. I call him Darren the Barbarian. He said, don't say that, Darren the Barbarian. I kind of make fun of him. He said, you stupid David. I said, that doesn't even rhyme. So David Wavid. I said, well, that makes no sense. So he didn't really have much. I'm 6.5 years older than him, and that when you're like, 12 years old, that's pretty big. So I remember just teasing him. I think too harsh, but definitely didn't make him happy. And then, second question. So what was I feeling and thinking at the time? I thought, that's interesting. I don't know exactly. Maybe I was bored. I had nothing to do. Was I trying to feel more kind of important about myself? Kind of like I'm in control and I can kind of tease my younger brother, and because there's not many consequences, I can feel superior. And I wonder, what was I feeling and thinking? And then what have you felt or thought about since? Well, definitely there's regret. I wish I hadn't teased my younger brother. And, it's felt like, that's just not something I should do. And I remember when I was 17 and began learning the Dharma and meditation, I actually made a clear resolve in my mind that I would stop teasing my brother and treating him at all in ways that was unkind. I would treat my brother with real respect. Remember, that was at 17. I made this conscious decision not to do that ever again. And then I thought, well, who has that affected and how? So clearly it's affected my younger brother. He was not happy when I did that. And myself, I don't know. It created probably negative habitual patterns of feeling better or superior or just, unskillful ways of being, And also probably my mom was not very happy. She had, her kids kind of fighting and what mom likes that. And also another thought was, what? Somehow my relationship with my brother isn't that close. There's respect. I was saying there's care between two of us, but somehow we're not really close. And there's this kind of a little bit of a distance. I thought, maybe that started because I teased him when I was a kid. So rather than, caring about him and showing, encouragement and having kind of mutual fun and respect, that kind of created a little bit of a distance. And I was reflecting on with this other student at DRVU, and I was a little bit surprised what I was saying because I was like, I didn't expect to go here. And then the last question was, so what do you think you can do? Well, maybe I should apologize. Actually, I can apologize and say to my brother, Darren, I'm sorry. I know this was something you didn't enjoy, and I've thought about it, and I really regret what I did, and I could have been not to doing that to you again, and also other people. And so I said that to the DRVU student, and my time's a little bit up, so I'll make the story shorter. Which is, fast forward a couple of months, just so happened that there was an event at Tzu Chi. It's Mother's Day, Buddha's birthday, and Tzu Chi Day all on the same day. They say 3 in 1. And I was invited to go, and usually my mom goes to that event and brings the whole family. So it's the time I meet my brother. So in my mind I thought, maybe it's a good chance to apologize. So I go, and we have the event, and we're driving back from the event to Berkeley Buddhist Monastery because my mom volunteered to drive me back, and my brother's there too. And actually he ends up driving. So I'm sitting with him, he's sitting there, driver's seat, I'm passenger seat. And in my mind I'm remembering, I should apologize to my brother. But I kind of have to find the right time to do it, kind of like a little bit embarrassing, so I kind of work up the courage. And so we kind of make small talk, he's talking about his life, ask him how he's doing, and so forth. We're just at the, pretty much McKinley here, driving up to the monastery, and I realized if I don't apologize now, I'm going to miss my chance. So I say, Darren? He says, yeah. I said, well, when you were a kid, I used to tease you. He looked at me and said, yeah. I said, yeah. I feel really bad about that. I really want to apologize. I'm really sorry. And I want to ask you for your forgiveness. And he just looks at me like, huh, not expected. And it's kind of a moment of silence. And he's parked the car. And I said to him, Darren, I'm really sorry about that. And I felt maybe that's why we're not as close as perhaps, some brothers could be. But I really want to let you know I'm sorry. I care about you. And, I don't want to do that ever again with you or other people. So I'm getting out of the car and kind of saying goodbye. And he looks at me and says, I forgive you. And I can feel in my heart like a kind of a knot just kind of open up. It's like, this kind of inner knot. Like, oh. I didn't realize I had that knot inside. That's something that, I had before that I wasn't just carried with me because it was something that I've done in the past. And so maybe today, just this journey about returning home is that sometimes returning home requires us to really face the things that prevent us from going home. But it's through facing them, not with anger, not with self-judgment, not with guilt and blaming ourselves, but through this kind of honest seeing, taking responsibility, and healing, that this journey home happens. So that's something I invite those who are here today to, if you want, you can do those questions you can ask yourself for something maybe you did. What happened? What I was feeling and thinking at that time? What have I felt or thought about since? Who has it affected and how? And finally, the most important question. So how can I heal this? How can I make things right? So let's leave that for you as an exercise if you wish today. Otherwise, wish you a good day. And we will begin 3 steps, 1 bow.
Return to home.
Returning home. And 3 steps, 1 bow is a wonderful way to return home. That's actually what Marty taught us for the 3 steps, 1 bow is returning. Returning, what was it? Returning, repenting, and reconnecting.
Reconnecting.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll have to leave because I have a class this morning. But
and to also finish a little bit earlier because I'm also sitting in this class. So we probably finish like 7:48.
Okay. Amitofo.
So we chant